Fly, fly, oh to be a fly. Fly, fly, come and be a fly on the wall.
Hello there. Our house is an ear. Come on in and we'll show you our dirty wax. I'm your neighborhood friendly black girl, Amber.
And I'm the best ear cleaner out there, Ben.
Cute. Welcome to Fly on the Wallin, where we'll share our stories of dating, parenting, and what happens when you record it all for the world to see. First things first, we always want to thank all of our I feel like I'm saying everything 3 times. Yes. We want to thank all our patrons out there. You can become a member of the Patreon and support this show for $1, $2, even $5 a month, baby. And when a tour comes in the future, the pre-sale tickets to the tour will be on that Patreon as well. So head on over to the Country Club for more exclusives and just good old-fashioned fun. Anyway, the link to that is in the episode notes. Did I say that?
You're advertising for a tour, like, hey, come on, we might have a tour, so you want to be on Patreon already, so when we drop the tickets.
It's true. The pre-sale's going to be there. It's going to be happening soon. We're already in the planning phase. I said that, you know what? I thought last episode we talked about how you're going to be my biggest supporter.
I am your biggest supporter.
Not my biggest hater.
No, I'm not your biggest hater. Certainly not your biggest hater.
Who's a bigger hater of mine than you?
I don't know, somebody on the internet who doesn't want to see you succeeding, who's jealous of you.
That's you. You just described your TikTok.
Of you. Why would I be jealous of you?
Look at me, man.
Your success is my
this camera
success.
Watching me? Look at the face.
Your success means
hair.
that I get more things. I get to go out to eat really great sushi.
So you're using a black woman.
Absolutely. And you're using a white man.
Ew. Yuck. Anyway, you want to talk about being influencers and using each other in the name of a chick?
Oh, yeah. So Amber did a photo shoot for herself.
I did.
And
that I had to talk you into doing.
No, you didn't.
I did. Oh, my gosh. I almost said, I wish I recorded everything for you to see, but I do.
I do not disagree with your decision to do these kinds of services. What I do sometimes disagree with is the price point.
That's disagreeing with the services.
Seems a little bit excessive at times. So I like the idea of not
paying for anything.
Paying for things if we can do them.
Who you just like your daddy.
On her own. So Amber
what happens when we can't do them on our own because of time?
All right, we talked about this. Then you do hire. But let's talk about you. Because this is Fly on the Wallin and really, really Fly on the Amber if we're talking about it.
No, it's a family show. I'll let you in. I have other shows. Bad Advice with Amber, Tuesdays on AMP.
Yeah, you should listen to
Shameless
that.
plug.
That's a live show too. We don't edit any of that.
Can't edit it, baby.
This is definitely edited.
I don't edit that much. I only edit when you stop dialogue to adjust your mic. You just did.
So you did a photo shoot for yourself.
Yep.
Why did you do this?
Thank you. That was a great question. Thank you for asking. I think as an actor, creator, performer, you do yourself a disservice when you don't get new photos, new visuals every about 2 to 3 years. So my cycle of needing new images to represent who I am now, that came up. So I needed to take pictures. I haven't taken pictures since 2 years before I had Wild, and then the pandemic happened and everything like that. So I needed to show photos of this is who I am today, and here's some things I aspire to be. So these photos for me really tell a story of either where I am now or where I want to be. Yes. So I want to one day be a Broadway diva performer on stage. So I got this big Tool number situation. I think of myself as a clown and a comedian. So I had an elevated clown chic look. I think of myself as a host and and a talker and a personality. So I wanted to go for like a host chic look. So these images were to tell the story of who I am now, and I'm going to redo my website.
And you can see those images first on Patreon.
That's right. Oh, good plug. Let me put a reminder to myself to put them on the Patreon first. Yes.
It was a full day of shooting.
Yep.
And Amber's the best. So something that people need to learn about Amber is that she has very high expectations. And so
You already setting it up on some BS, but go ahead.
Yeah, she does have great expectations. And a very standard expectation that Amber has is be on time and be prepared.
That's not unique to me.
It's
I
not.
feel like every professional should be on time and prepared.
Unlike a lot of people, though, if those expectations are not met, both in her personal life or in her professional life, what she'll do, she will give you consequences. So if you are hired to do a job, not even strikes, let me explain. So for any listeners, if Amber ever hires you to do a job and you show up late to that job, 10 minutes, sure, she'll give you a grace period. You show up 2 hours late, she will never work with you again. Never. She will hold, and then if in your personal life you show up late, she's going to talk to you about that and then just not trust you to do the next event. Or if she needs you to do this next event, she's going to like text you, all right, an hour before, 2 hours before, are you coming? Make sure you're there on time. She's going to ask you like 3, 4, 5 times. She's going to, nag you for some people to do this thing. So those are two things that Amber has. Amber hired this, photographer, does great work, showed up 2 hours late, and charger not working. And Amber had to learn to like adjust herself. You won't work with that person again. So
right. Well, this isn't unique to this person, but I think it's this. You can go down the line from the person that cuts my hair to the nail person to the hairstylist. Especially if you don't give me notice, or especially if you pretend like you weren't late. If you pretend that everything's fine.
That gaslighting.
The gaslight infuriates your girl.
Yeah.
So we had a situation where that worked out.
Gaslighting, though, because it's not saying I didn't. It's not saying I didn't show up late. It's pretending as if me showing up late wasn't a big deal, right? There's like a downplaying, which is a form of gaslighting.
Yes.
Or there's specific gaslighting, like I didn't do that, like explicitly denying. That wasn't this situation. It was this pseudo gaslighting.
Yes.
What's like a different thing instead of not a gaslight, maybe a vapor. It was like vapor lighting.
It was profesh, and like I'm not gonna drop this person's name or whatever. This person has a lot of talent, and lots of people I've worked with in the past have a lot of talent. But I just think anything over 15 minutes for me, I don't have time. Mm-hmm. Like we are running out of time day by day. I know this is my anxiety talking, but. And of course I've had people run late to things, but they send a text, a message. They send I'm sorry. I've ran late to many things. We're late to almost everything because of who we are, but I have not had somebody like waiting at the table on me
for 2 hours. Especially if they run the show. The other thing is that you, like you said, and this is a world of influencing. So we're talking about influencing, and for these kinds of pictures, you don't really need to do these very often, and I would recommend not to do them. There's a lot of people who think, I need to buy a very expensive phone, or I need to buy a very expensive camera, or I need to have very professional-looking shots right away. That's not the situation.
You're saying if you move to LA and
you don't need to do that right off the top.
Of course.
What was happening, Amber needed to do this. She needed to get some professional-looking things done. It's because her raggedy face was showing up next to like Kiki Palmer's like well done face, you were looking.
We all remember how I have not been prepared for many opportunities that I've gotten this year. So I was like, I need new pictures. The minute I have a summer or some time set aside. Like I need to. The actors are on strike right now. The writers are on strike. Like for me, this is a good season to like get my visuals together so that when things do start back up, I can get back out there auditioning and things like that. So it infuriates me when I have all my ducks in a row, when I plan things weeks out. And let this be a lesson to you. If you're somebody who is maybe going to work with me in the future, or maybe just looking to be in the entertainment industry or in the space, like punctuality is everything. I know there's a lot of discourse online right now with Gen Z and things like that about how like time is a construct of the man and all of that. Time blindness is kind of a disability. It's like, be that as it may. If you want to work with me, you need to be on time. If you want to work with me and I paid you money out of my pocket, you need to be on time. You need to be early, if you ask the diva. And everybody else that day was at their post on time, ready to go, supportive. And even especially because if you run 2 hours over, that's 2 more hours I got to pay my sitter. That's 2 more hours I got to communicate with somebody else. I had a 6 p.m. dinner. That's somebody else I got to communicate with.
Yeah, that sort of affected the whole.
It did. It's
the
a
whole
domino
rest
effect.
of our night because we had a babysitter that was supposed to come. We had a friend in town that we were supposed to meet up for dinner that night, and everything had to be pushed back because somebody came late. Not only late, but 2 hours late. And even though that this was a big deal, we had talked about this. Amber had, paid this person,
and I typically am a very good tipper, but I was like, I ain't tipping nothing.
Yeah.
And you gonna give me a little something, some extra retouch photos. I'm definitely gonna ask for it. I'm gonna ask for some comps. That's who I am.
Yeah.
When a hotel butchers your reservation, when a flight cancels your flight, you got to throw in some promos, baby.
I think the other thing, living in a city is sort of nice because it gives you that market option where if you had a bad experience with a makeup designer, a hairstylist, there's so many people who can like step up, right?
Exactly.
We're in a big city where you have a bad experience at a sushi place. There's not just one sushi place in town. It's sort of a huge advantage of living in a city and even a fashion city like LA.
And going back to last week's conversation, I hold this standard to myself as well. I beat myself up a little bit when I'm late to things. I beat myself up when I can't deliver the absolute best product.
What you do is what I see you do, if you make a mistake, you look to make a move to make up for it. Like, I missed this event, or I couldn't do this thing because of A, B, C. So let me do this D, or E option to sort of compensate for my lack. And I think a lot of people don't think that way, but you expect everybody to think that way.
Yeah.
I think a little unreasonably.
If you stab my knee, give me a Band-Aid.
Yeah, but that's unreasonable.
How is that unreasonable?
Because you expect people to be sympathetic and empathetic, or at least sympathetic.
I think people see on the receiving end, because you've probably felt this way before, people see it as a little harsh or like not human. Mm-hmm. Like see the humanity in somebody. Like sometimes there's traffic, sometimes there's whatever, but there are always ways to combat whatever's thrown at you.
Right. You expect people to do something to make up,
to atone
for their lack. Yes.
You've experienced this.
Mm-hmm.
How does it feel to be on the receiving end of that? I ain't even gonna talk about this person that I won't be working with again.
It was
did great work though.
It was annoying. I think for me it was a nice reminder that showing up late to something is a major disrespect, because you're saying that you're showing your lack of awareness, and you're also saying that I don't care. Like my time,
I don't care if you're in full makeup. I don't care if your hair is done.
But
I don't care if you're ready to go.
There was there was about 10 people affected by this one person not coming prepared and showing up late. I was affected because I was supposed to show up to this shoot. I'm watching the kid. I could have made up a swim lesson that day if I knew that everything was pushed back. I also woke up early. I walked the dog. I took Wild out. And at one point, I get in the car. I start driving down, and Amber's like, you know what? We're actually another hour behind. So I'm driving. I'm like, all right, what do I do? So I had to pivot, which was fine. I ended up going to an amazing museum like 5 minutes away. Wild and I had a very good time. It was a free museum, and it was wonderful, my ability to pivot, but at the same time, I could have done other things.
Yeah.
So me and Wild were affected by that. The babysitter we had to push her back. The babysitter
Yeah, at
coming.
one point she showed up at our house. The baby wasn't even there.
Yeah.
You know what else it has been for me sometimes? I'm very hard on myself, as you know this better than anybody. I'm very critical of myself. And so I feel instinctually sometimes these things are about to happen. So I go out of my way to be like, okay, I remember I emailed this person one time and they emailed me back like 3 or 4 days after. So these are already like
red flags,
little signs. They're not red flags, but they are. So I try my absolute best to sweat the small stuff so that I'm not shocked and appalled.
All the teaching
Yes.
Experience that you had. The other thing,
sweat the small stuff.
with
I tell my friends that
influencing-
on dates too. I'm like, this is something small, but that you need to sweat a little bit.
Yes. So this is in the world of influencing, you are your own boss and you're constantly hiring out other people to come work for you. And so you have to test and feel, like for Amber, okay, finding the right stylist, finding the right makeup person, finding the right hair person. And
she's a diva.
Yeah, she's not a diva. You're just particular. And a lot of people think
I'm learning the older that I get, I'm a little bit more picky than I think I am.
Maybe, but you're not picky. You just have a standard of professionalism that you expect, and I think sometimes wrongly assume everyone should have, but not everyone works that way. And not everyone is called out when they don't meet that standard level of professionalism. Like, especially come on time, come prepared.
Explain that to me, Ben. It's not because you know from experience. Explain to me how you know you have a big opportunity the next day and you don't put
I think
you don't put batteries on chargers.
So I think
before you go to sleep.
Yeah.
Explain that to me.
I think there's this element of people not willing to speak up for themselves, right? So I think of we have influencer friends. This is their full-time job, and they'll work with somebody, whether it's a manager, whatever, and that person doesn't really work well or hold their end, and the influencer will say, "Well, I can't do better." They don't think they can do better.
Yes, we have had that talk with a few friends here.
So I think for me, it's you know that you can do better, so you're willing to drop people. Whereas some people are like, "Oh, it doesn't matter," you know. Like,
do you think I can be unforgiving sometimes?
It's not. It's you don't really care about forgiveness. That's not even a real question. You're about getting the work done, and if someone can't get the work done, I'm moving on. It's not like you're
I just
holding
like to
a
check
grudge.
in because sometimes I'm like, am I crazy? Am I being mean?
I don't think you're being mean. You don't care. There's nothing to forgive. Forgiveness is like a stupid term in this situation. It doesn't apply to this situation. You can't do the job. That's fine. I gave you a chance. You didn't do the job. I'm moving to the next person.
Yeah.
I'm going to find somebody. And then once you find that person, you're going to keep that person like long term. Like you had someone who did your hair. They couldn't do your hair for a couple of months. You found someone else to do your hair.
Oh, baby.
And so you're gonna continue going to that person who can actually be more consistent.
Because I never want to be. I've probably talked about this before, but like my dad is at the same barber for like many years, and at this point, because the guy is just literally so physically old, he's not doing the quality of work that he did for my dad. Obviously, like when he was in the 80s or whatever, because he's damn 80 plus, you know. And my dad's like, I'm just so loyal to him and whatever. Yeah. Like I don't understand loyalty to your mom had that experience too. Your mother was like, this lady has not been cutting my hair well, but she's so nice, and I've been going to her so long.
I think a lot of people have that mindset.
I was like, but you're unhappy with how you look.
Yeah, but I think people mistake loyalty for like abuse, or like this person. Right.
I would keep going.
Yeah. So this person. There's levels to abuse, but this person is abusing you in the sense of like taking your money and doing a subpar job, right?
They're manipulating you.
It's a so loyalty, like you don't stay loyal to someone who is manipulating you or taking advantage of you.
Now my dad's barber is just getting old. Like his hands are just physically cannot hold the clippers like they used to. So it's like, so it's hard, right? Like, should I leave?
You could still remain loyal to him in other ways, and instead of getting a shitty haircut, right? You can stop by, say, how are you doing? I don't know.
I see what you're saying. That's smart. Yeah.
Maybe.
I just would never be like that. Like if I pay you to do a job and you don't do it well, we have to part ways.
Yeah, yeah. Don't mistake loyalty for business, right?
Right.
Like you're loyal to your family. You can't be loyal to a business. People think businesses are these human entities, right? Like don't mistake this person doing a haircut as you being loyal to them.
Yeah, but people do find family businesses sometimes that you're like,
It's
this is
still a business.
Yeah.
And if they're not doing the job right,
I'm not one of those people, but there are people that are like, I've been going to the same person for X amount of years.
You exiting someone doesn't make you disloyal. It just means that you're not going to do that business.
Yeah.
I hate this idea of like, I'm loyal to the business. Fuck the business if the business is not doing you right. The business is taking advantage of you. There's no disloyalty or loyalty in businesses, except we use the term loyalty programs. Loyalties are for people, not for businesses.
It's but you remember that Atlanta episode where Paperboy went to the barber and he's just like dragging him all around town, but he's probably gonna come back to the same barber in 2 weeks or whatever.
Well, that barber did a better job. Like at the end of that episode in Atlanta, it was very clear that the barber who was on some like fuckboy shit, had to deal with a situation with his son, had to deal with this or that. Yeah. He was the better barber. He did the better cut. But
that's where the conflict happens, right? Because we confuse, not in the example that I gave of your mother and my father. It's when I see this person's level of talent, but their unprofessionalism and their discipline is not on the level that I think that's what keeps a lot of people.
Yeah.
That's what has people like recommending that person to you.
But people are confused because especially in big cities, LA is filled with talent.
That's the stuff
Chicago
I don't care about.
Is filled with talent. You can find talent anywhere. There's talent in my dick. There's talent in everything. That's true. Like talent is everywhere.
Because that's how I am too.
Discipline and professionalism.
Like I don't care if you're Da Vinci and Michelangelo. If you cannot come on time to paint this mural, I have to find somebody else to do it.
For a Raphael. I don't know.
Anyway, I hope y'all and let that be a reminder to y'all to hold yourself to the same standard of excellence as well. If you're going to somebody to do a service for you and they fudge it up every now and then, just cut them off. It's hard, but you sweat the small stuff is essentially what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. All right,
Speaking of the small stuff,
we're moving on to Imperfect Parent, where we talk about raising our child, and I follow a lot of parenting advice columns on the interwebs, on Instagram, TikTok. It's just good.
Instagram real advice columns.
Yeah. They like tell me how to be a good parent. And one of the cute things is instead of giving people like negative, reinforcements being or threats of punishment.
People isn't your child?
Yeah. Okay. So a parent sees messy clothes everywhere and says, hey, instead of threatening, like, if you don't pick up these clothes, I'm going to donate them to Goodwill. Let's make a game out of it. Let's create a game. All right, pick up these clothes.
Let's play a game.
Yeah, let's, shoot them in for a basket or something. Or like a kid doesn't want to eat their salad. Let's have fun eating our salad. Let's make loud, crunchy noises. So create fun.
Do that next time I got to eat a salad.
Yeah, I will. And so I thought this was a good advice. It's just a tool you can use.
Yeah.
It might not always work, but the
comments.
The comments are like, I don't have enough energy to do this with my kids. And it was sort of interesting to see that people use, like they were saying all the ways how they could not do this in the comments. I can't do this because X, Y, and Z, right? Okay. And it's so fascinating how someone will present a tool and there are certain negative people who will come in and immediately think how they can't do it instead of thinking
it's like the anti-gentle parenting people too. They're like, ain't nobody got time for this. My kids are gangsters.
Yes. Yeah. I am not gentle. My kids are gangsters. Yeah, that's like I'm like, no, their gentle parenting is a tool that can be used in different situations. And I love how pathetic most people are when it comes to parenting. because they give themselves excuses for not trying something.
Yeah.
And it's pathetic and something that I don't ever want to fall into. Maybe this technique won't work for a while.
Yeah. I don't
Maybe
think it's
something
pathetic.
else.
I just think that sometimes we reach a place based on who is in your life and who you've partnered with where you're just being complacent and you don't even realize it.
Yeah.
Like you're anti and you're complacent. And I do think that in searching for a partner, I wanted to find someone who is always constantly pushing my thinking on things, which is why I dated you and wanted to marry you. And so I think you and I, and because we're big readers and we talk to each other a lot, we're in the daily practice of pushing our thinking with these things. And so when I see parents respond that way, I'm kind of like, who is in your life that's going to push your thinking just a little bit? Like that's what I hear when I see that a little bit. I'm like, nobody is pushing or opening your mind at all. Like people are, even when people tell me like, I found this guy, he's exactly like me, I'm immediately like, oh no. Not because I don't like you, but I'm kind of like, no, you kind of need to find somebody. They don't have to be white or anything like that, but you kind of need to find somebody who's a little bit different and pushes your thinking and challenges how you think you should parent. Because I too would have fallen into the pitfall of like, yeah, my parents whooped me, I'm probably gonna whoop my child, and tale as old as time. Mm-hmm. And it was you that was like, I really want you to read this book so we can have a conversation about it so that we can think about how we're going to make parenting work for us. And so I don't see, maybe you're thinking that person's pathetic, but I don't see pathetic. I see a former Amber in some of those comment sections. Mm-hmm. And I'm kind of like, they have not met the person in their life. It doesn't have to be a partner. They just haven't met the person that's going to teach them how to be like, open your mind a little bit. Just try it and just try it consistently and see if your child responds to this, because we also see tons of parents complaining about the same things. Mm-hmm. So we'll have a parent here who's like, hey, this is something that works for me and my kid, that makes my kid feel like they have autonomy and it's a positive reinforcement. You try it. And people are like, oh no. And I'm like, that is a former Amber in those comment sections.
The other thing, reading 30 minutes a day, a lot of people will say that's not feasible because I work, X, Y, and Z. Okay, maybe not 30 minutes, but you can go to, maybe you work at night, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe you read to them on the weekend. You can get a library card. And there is this element of people thinking all the ways they can't do something instead of saying, yes, I will, and here's how I'm going to do it. There's this term I ran across recently called the institutionalized yes, where at, I think it was at Amazon, where if someone came up with an idea, no one could say no to it. And if you did say no to it, or maybe it was Apple, one of these big major companies, if you did say no to the idea, you had to write like a 3-page report and then publish it for everyone to see why you said no to that idea. So what happened is that everyone was able to hear yeses to all their ideas, all their projects, and it sort of took away this idea of, no, we can't do this, and it brought in, yes, how can we do it? Instead of seeing that negative, seeing that positive. And I love that.
Me too. I think this
Especially
is going to change
parenting.
the way that we do some even ideas for things that we create together, because I am a institutionalized no kind of bitch.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes I when you're hearing me push back about those things, what I'm actually trying to do is work through my brain how it can work. But sometimes I think you hear it as no.
Yeah, well, you're saying, your phrasing of
my phrasing is why you hear it as no.
You can't do this because of this, or that won't work because of this. So instead of saying that won't work, say, oh,
we just need to troubleshoot blank to make that work.
Or how will, instead of saying how instead of saying it won't work because of this, saying how will it work with this. So putting the how instead of the statement, it won't work. So how? Asking the question instead of stating the negative.
We need to start doing that a little bit more. Because even as we're planning for like this tour and stuff, for example, like we just did like a huge brain dump of ideas. So I loaded all mine in there and I put them in the columns. And Ben was just spitballing an idea to me one day. And I was doing something at the time. So I didn't fully have time to listen to your idea. Mm-hmm. And I think in that I was like, you pitched an idea and I was like, put it in the spreadsheet bin so I can review it later, whatever. And you were like, never mind. And I was like, no, I'm not saying no to it. I just I do not have the space to listen to you.
That's not what you
say
said.
it right now.
That's not
what did I say?
You said.
Was I doing something at the time before
you
started?
Was
I doing
but
something?
Your exact words were, that won't work because you didn't do this yet. Like you said it won't work because you didn't do this. Like
what was this? Was the this trying to say me being like, can you put it in the spreadsheet so I can break it down?
No, you said that it won't work because I didn't do this other thing yet to make it work. You're like, where's, you don't have a slideshow to make it work. And I was like, oh, all right, whatever. I'm just shooting bigger ideas, and then we can hone in on how that idea would work. But I was writing it in, and before I even got the idea out,
before you pressed enter,
you said the idea was not a great idea.
That's not what I meant.
I know you didn't.
What I meant was I cannot fully listen to and make this idea work right now. Can you add it so that I can review it later? And that came out as that won't work.
Shit, you're stupid. Go fuck yourself.
That's exactly what I said.
She would. You would never. All right.
Anyway,
we're done with imperfect parent. Basically,
yeah.
When you get parenting advice, there's this whole thing of like, don't tell me how to advise. Just listen to it and say, yes, how can I make that work? You know?
Yeah.
Like
if it's not, especially if it's just 3 tips to help your baby do blank. Like I want to distinguish that between like unsolicited parent advice about your specific child, because that's annoying too.
But it's annoying, but still listen to it. There might be a nugget in there. You don't have to respond to it. You can just hear it. Like, okay.
Yes, but sometimes I actually love soliciting advice. So sometimes it feels, you know how I am. It feels like I'm sideswept when I'm doing something and I get a cold text from either of our parents being like, you need to do this with Wild. I'm like, what? I don't even know where's this coming from. Like I can't even hear it because I don't know where it's coming from. It's like I can't.
You don't have to figure out where it comes from. Just
it's like the restaurant music is too loud. I'm eating.
Take the advice at its face value and see if it's applicable to you. You don't have to say no right away to the advice. Just say, is this applicable?
Okay. The next time my mama sends a present to the house unprompted to Wild, I want to hear. I'm going to say back to you. Just take this gift and see if it's applicable to you. Okay?
It's probably something
because you'll be like, why did your mom send you us this?
Sure.
We don't need
I do
this.
The same thing.
Yeah.
This advice is also for me. Okay, all right. Good. So we're moving on to section 3, I do's and don'ts of relationships. Amber says marriage, but I don't like that term marriage because I think it's exclusive for people who don't want to get married or people who are not at that stage yet. So I do's and don'ts of relationships.
Okay. But you see how the I do and I don't is a play on the marriage vows.
Sure, yeah.
But, come for me always. Anyway, letter number 1. Dear Amber and Ben, my husband and I have been married for 2 years. We dated for a few years while in college. His mom raised him as a single mom, so she has a very special place in his heart. All of his actions are to make her proud. Because of this, he makes excuses for her actions.
Yeah.
If she annoys him with something, he'll tell me about it. But if I start to agree with him about her being annoying, he'll start to feel guilty for saying anything about it. He'll tell me about it. My mother-in-law pushes my limits daily. She'll ask if she can come to our house. She asked if she could come to our house the other day. I told her no because I planned a home day date with my husband for our anniversary. We were literally about to have some much needed us time. She showed up anyway, and my husband told her she could stay. I was livid. I told my husband that he needs to start setting boundaries, and he said that he will not do that. To him, setting boundaries will end up in an argument, and he doesn't see an issue. Please help.
Oh, wow. I mean, you see the issue already. The issue is that boundaries need to be set, and it is a hard thing to do. So it sounds like you've started the step, which is you've introduced this idea of setting boundaries, but you're also dealing with somebody who has a very close relationship. And this is going to be probably the hardest battle y'all ever have. But I'd say
this is a melee.
But keep on bringing it up until the boundaries are set because it is only going to get worse.
Can I be petty patty for a second?
Yeah.
Because I'm going to be a straight shooter. This probably is not good advice. if this was happening with you and
Mm-hmm.
I would go into full petty mode. If your mom asked, could she come over, and we planned a date in our home,
Yeah.
and she came over anyway, I would leave.
Yeah.
I would leave and go ask one of my girlfriends if they want to go get a cocktail. And I would text my husband, text me when your mama leaves so we can start our date.
I don't think that is
I would
petty.
make it uncomfortable.
I don't think that's
so that
petty.
every time you chose your mother over me, you don't get both of us here in the house. You don't get me putting on a good face.
Well, that's the thing, is you set a boundary for yourself.
Correct. That's what I would do.
You said you wanted your time with him. He did not respect that.
So I'm out.
With me, like if my mom came over, I didn't respect that. So you'd say, okay, my boundary was to spend time like one-on-one. I'm not with your mom, so you're not respecting that. I'm not going to be here
right
when that happens.
And y'all can talk shit about me. Y'all can do whatever y'all want.
That's fine.
And your boundary earlier, like you said, he makes excuse. If she annoys him with something, he'll tell me about it, and then if I start to agree, he'll start to feel guilty for saying anything bad about her. So that for me, every time you started complaining about your mama, I would say, pause. You know I'm on Team Ben, right? So whatever you're about to tell me, I'm probably going to agree with you.
Mm-hmm.
So I want you to know that. Now tell me about your mama.
Yeah.
If you don't want me to agree with you, then don't talk to me about your mama at all.
2 years also seems like the time where a lot of these issues are really going to come out, right? You're sort of leaving that honeymoon phase. I think there is data to show that within the first like year or two, you start to see things that come up. And this is something you got to nip in the butt. And you're going to have to keep on setting the boundary, being like, all right, so the boundary that I don't want, you're like, I need you as the husband to set the boundary with your mom, but he's not willing to set that boundary, and you cannot control that. So what has to happen is you set the boundary between you and the mother.
Yes.
And that's what Amber is suggesting, because you can't control how someone else sets their boundaries.
Nope.
But what you can do is set
Set
your
your own.
boundary between the relationship that you have with the in-law, and then also the relationship between you and your husband. So if your husband's violating the boundary of I'm inviting her over, you need to create some sort of consequence.
Yeah,
which is like leaving the home.
You need to put the controller in your hand, and come on, Ben, give me press X, Y, joystick to the right.
You got BA.
Thank you. And you, especially, you can easily, not easily, it's going to be difficult to do.
L1, L2, R1, R2.
L1. You need to press L1 and
hold L1.
Let's say, for example, his mama
hold
is texting.
L1. You got to hold L1.
I'm holding. Let's say, for example, his mother is texting you too much. I would say, Diane, I'm free after 5. And don't text her until you're free.
Yep.
Diane, I'm free on Wednesdays after 8 p.m. and Fridays after 3 p.m. Can you text me at those times? Don't take any more text messages or whatever. And if she asked, could she come over, and you said no, and she comes over, I would be gone.
You know what you could also do is that you could, if he starts shit talking his mama to you, like cut that conversation. Be like, this is something you need to talk with your mom, because this is the relationship between you and your mom.
I would say let's call her.
Yeah, let's.
If you're
call
not
her.
going to talk about that, then stop. Because your husband is probably experiencing some of the similar things that you're experiencing.
Yeah.
And we know a hovering mother-in-law. My mother-in-law does not hover like this, but
no, neither of us. Yeah,
not at all. But I definitely think that it will get to the point where your husband is going to be so frustrated.
Yeah, it's going to ruin his relationship
because he could have got some
with her.
that night. It's going to get to the point where your husband is so frustrated that every time your mama comes over, you're gone. Even if it's your house, your husband needs to feel a little bit of discomfort in trying to negotiate this, because it feels like a lot of this discomfort is falling on you.
No. I don't even make it about the husband, about him feeling discomfort.
He needs to feel uncomfortable.
No, make it about you feeling comfortable, right? Like
right,
you were livid.
But she's not comfortable, Ben, because she wants
no, let me finish.
She wants to do her home date.
No, let me finish. So she was home. The mother-in-law came over. She was livid. That's not okay. So you need to find a space where you're not livid. So you need to leave that home and go somewhere, meet up with a friend, as Amber said. And that will sort of relieve that livid.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, I wanted to be with my husband
Correct.
tonight.
Correct, but you couldn't control that because your husband didn't want that. Your husband chose, in this case, your mother-in-law over you, and that broke a boundary. You're livid, you're angry, so you can either stay in the house, be angry, livid, or protect yourself and leave the home.
Yeah.
And it's not right. And maybe there's a side consequence where the husband feels discomfort, but don't do it as a angry way to make your husband discomfort, because then you're just creating animosity.
I would.
Yeah, but I don't think that's healthy. Now, but make it about you and you're comfortable and creating a space for you to feel comfortable. So if she comes over, just be like, I'm not going to hang out with you. I'm going to go to the other room. I'm not, instead of sitting there and, maybe you did do that, but I would recommend just leaving.
The last thing that I would say also is I would start keeping some receipts of how many points of contact your husband has with his mom. So that when you do finally say like, hey, Ben, we need to talk about how often your mother is in our married lives. Let's go through it. On Monday, you talked to her for 2 hours. On Tuesday of this week, y'all were texting all night.
Yeah.
On
Keep
Wednesday,
the details
she came
of it.
over. On Thursday, y'all had brunch together.
So you can reference it specifically.
Right. Keep those receipts.
And it's not general, so you can give like a very specific example.
Because
I have to do that better
don't.
with you when you annoy me, because I'm like, you did this thing, but I don't remember it. So I need to actually write it down to talk about it at the appropriate time. When you make mistakes, sometimes I forget your mistakes, so I need to write them down a little bit more often.
If you forget them, darling, they're probably not happening as frequently.
They are. The thing is, you're usually doing something. So I'm like, this is not an appropriate time to bring it up. You're like, so you're having a bad day, and so you say something mean. I'm like, okay, I need to bring this up later. Then I just forget.
It's not mean to ask you to help around the house, darling, but that's okay. Actually, baby.
See, I literally can't say what actually happened. So,
okay, well, keep receipts. If you got the discipline, keep the receipts. We're actually going to jump right into Shelfie today because we do want to talk about They Cloned Tyrone. We're going to hold our other letters to next week because, we don't want to get kicked out of this room. So let's go right over to Shelfie, okay, baby?
Yeah.
All right. So we watched They Cloned Tyrone. It was directed by Jewel Taylor. Initial things, because this was fucking hilarious.
Yeah, the movie it's a comedy. It plays with like mystery and science fiction. There's this Stranger Thing element, so you have like mad scientists experimenting on black people and
like a cohort, if you will.
Yeah, I think it plays with a lot of anxieties around like black communities and distrust around science, particularly in vaccines.
Yeah, conspiracy theories.
But they're
poisoning the food.
There's actual examples of this happening historically where, black communities have been experimented on unknowingly, or Henrietta Lacks like using her genetic material for, positive purposes, which is what the scientists are doing in here. And it's a very clever twist on that. I think we've seen most of the themes before.
Yes, we've seen the trope of, especially if you've ever watched like Undercover Brother, is specifically with the fried chicken poisoning. There's kind of a plot line where like the chicken is doing something, and white men in afros and all that kind of, and that black exploitation energy.
It was very predictable though.
Yes, it was plot wise, it was a little predictable, but it was also really cool to see some things. I liked how they made an intentional decision to sort of lead us on about like where this timeline of events are happening, because you have 70s hair with Slick Charles, Jamie Foxx's character, and Yo-Yo, Tiana Parrish's character. And then you have old cars, but then you see a flip phone, and then there's a guy selling DVDs, but then they start talking about Bitcoin and crypto, and then this kid is mentioning SpongeBob. So you're kind of like, it could be 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s. So you're kind of losing track of like when it is. But
they do a good job of explaining why that is.
Right.
Because there's a group of people who are constantly being cloned. And one of those people being cloned was somebody who was born in the 70s and sort of grew up in the 70s.
Yes.
But he's, a 30-year-old person.
Right.
Because he keeps on being cloned.
So it feels like clones from different eras are coming together, which is really cool to see.
It's worth watching. It's 2 hours. It didn't feel like 2 hours.
Jamie Foxx had some of the most incredible lines in here. I just wrote down a few. I cackled out loud when somebody, he's kind of like a pimp-esque character, but he's kind of like a respectable pimp.
Yeah.
In a way, like he's like, pimping ain't the same. Like I gave the girls a day off. At one point, like this girl was doing his nails. He's like, respect the cuticles, and he accidentally shot this like white dude at one point in the movie. He was like, come on, player, let me stand you up real quick. I was like, you just shot and killed this man. It's so great. I also love that it made me think a lot about this trope that we've seen. Also, there's a character who sits outside the liquor store and is kind of like a riddler. Like he becomes important to the story because he kind of knows what's going on, but he says it in riddles, very a la like Mad Hatter and Alice in Wonderland. It's like, why is a raven like a writing
even
desk?
Further in Greek plays. In Greek plays, you would have the blind man.
Yes.
He would predict the future
right.
or new things, and so you have this man sitting out who is a drunk and who's not all there,
and he's probably not being cloned because people.
Yeah, but he'll say things. He's like, "You got the smell of a fresh new car."
Yes,
referring to someone who's just been cloned. So he says very specific things. So he has like the wisdom, almost like the esoteric.
Yeah, a soothsayer. Yeah, a little bit, a drunk soothsayer.
Which is, you'll see those in all the Greek myths. So it goes back, the madman who knows the truth. Right.
I like that because he's kind of unsuspecting and the government's not going to clone him. So there's not, like, he has the knowledge because he's not being cloned.
Yeah.
We also love a cameo from David Alan Grier as the pastor. At one point during the church scene, they started playing like Back That Ass Up on the organ. And everybody's kind of like getting their freak on a little bit in the church with the dance moves. And there was just like so many like funny elements to it, and in the ways of I could see this director being inspired a lot by Childish Gambino, right? I don't know, but I could see that. Like if I didn't look at the credit, I could be like, oh, who directed this?
I would say more like blaxploitation films of the 70s.
Oh, yeah, of course.
I think John Boyega plays a great character. And, he plays along these two sort of comedic characters, and he's the straight man who is very serious. And I think that dynamic works really well. It's good to see Jamie Foxx still acting.
Be talking. Yes, because he had a health scare, and I think he's still sort of working through his health scare. He recently made a statement, but it's so good to see Jamie Foxx on our screens. Like he's just we were introduced to Jamie Foxx as a comedian, and obviously he can do dramatic acting very well, as we saw in Ray and things like that. But
Collateral.
You just remember like, this is why we love the Jamie Foxx show. Like just great comedy. He's great. He made me want to be a pimp in so many, like not to do the actual practice of like
pimping,
trafficking women, but he made me want to have a character, the pimp style, the pimp energy. He made me want to have a character like that in my arsenal. He got me excited thinking about like what actual occupation would I like to pair with the pimp style. Like imagine having a doctor who had the pimp style. He's like, sucker, take 2 pills a day, motherfucker. Like it just gets me excited to think about like all the possibilities of combinations of like pimp energy that I could pair with any job.
I think that you have a character in the work.
Like a pimp, but who is like a cafeteria worker. Mm-hmm. Like that's a great character.
The names are really fun, like a character named Frog.
Yeah. John Boyega did great as well.
Yeah.
What was his character's name? I know like at the end it was Tyrone, but...
Yeah, so...
Fontaine. What a great name. Yeah. Fontaine's a really great name, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, please watch They Cloned Tyrone. We will come back next week with 2 letters and just... love on each other, keep giving each other advice. We had a good time today, right?
Yeah.
And keep receipts of my mistakes, right, Ben?
Yeah, I got to keep a record of wrongs because love keeps record of wrongs.
Got it. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of Fly on the Wallin. Here comes the outro music. We will see y'all next week on the show. Bye, y'all.
You know they're from TikTok, cause those laughs keep you coming, cause they're wildin' all the time. Before Wild throws a tantrum, listen to our silly anthem, cause they're wildin' all the time. Don't swat while Amber squats and does her dance to please her plans and been serving looks.